and the places that you know seem like fantasy. There's a light inside your soul that's still shining in the cold, with the truth, the promise in our hearts. Don't forget, I'm with you in the dark.
The Fat Controller had ordered the viaduct for the main line to be fixed up, but this meant the engines on the main line had to go slower so they wouldn't break the viaduct. This made their trains later and later. No one was more upset about this than Thomas. I can't be kept waiting for Henry and James with their trains. They need to hurry up for once. At last, Henry lost patience. If we hurried over the viaduct, you would not have any more passengers. And then what would you do? I'd run my trains properly, said Thomas cockily as he left. Usually, when Bertie arrived at the station, Thomas would normally be there ready to take his passengers. But because the viaduct was being fixed up, Bertie came earlier than Thomas, and his passengers had to wait for Thomas to arrive. What's the matter, Thomas? You out of breath? Said Bertie one day. We should have another race. Thomas went bluer than ever. I don't need to race you to show that I'm not late. And Thomas fumed away. The next day, Thomas was super late because James was late with his train. Sorry, Thomas, I got hold up, said James. I don't need excuses, said Thomas as he puffed away. As Thomas reached the tunnel, he saw Bertie the bus. Thomas, said Bertie, I've broken down. Please take my passengers to the station. This raised Thomas's spirits, for it turns out he wasn't late at all. Of course, Bertie, said Thomas. The passengers went into Annie and Clarabelle, and before Thomas left, he told Bertie he would get help. That evening, Bertie met Thomas at the sheds. I'm sorry I teased you, Thomas, said Bertie. That's all right, Bertie, said Thomas. You were just joking. Sometimes I guess being late isn't so bad after all. In the summer, the engines on the branch line collect the hay from the farmers to take to market. The hay is loaded in their trucks, and they work daily. This day was different. Whoosh! Reached Percy. That was a good one, eh, Thomas? Your ugly fizz is getting on my patience, Percy, scolded Thomas. Why, you're like a green caterpillar with red stripes. I'm not, said Percy. Who's been late at the station every day? Percy was offended. Whatever. Green caterpillar with red stripes indeed, soured Percy. I'll show him. Percy soon went to the harbor to collect some luggage. Then there was trouble. A crate of treacle spilled all over poor Percy. Unfortunately, his driver and fireman were not able to clean him up quickly enough because he had to get moving. On his way home, the wind became strong, especially near the hayfields. You'll have to speed up, Percy, said his driver. Percy tried, but the hay made the rails too slippery. Percy had to stay there until the wind died down. Meanwhile, Thomas was cross. Bust my buffers, 10 minutes late. Where is that green caterpillar? At last, Percy arrived. Look what's crawled out of the hay, said Thomas. What's so funny? Oh, nothing. I'm just glad I was late to see that. And Thomas started away. When Percy got back to the shed, his driver showed him a mirror. Percy was embarrassed what he looked like. Clean it off, driver, clean it off, said Percy, in a frantic motion, but it was no use. Thomas had already told Toby, and at that shed later that day, the two engines made fun of Percy and talked about nothing but woolly bears and caterpillars. Percy thought for being old engines, they were being very childish indeed.